Welcome to Intentionally FinTech, the show we dive deep behind the purpose of your favorite emerging or even incumbent FinTech brands. I'm your host for today, Michael Phillips, the CEO and founder of a purpose-driven branding agency, Colfi. After 7 years in the creative industry, I had an unfortunate wake-up call in late January. I've made it my mission to help founders, like my guests on this podcast, to do what inspires them most. On this show, we're going to dive deep behind the purpose of your favorite emerging or incumbent fintech brands, the values that drive their day-to-day work, and just how exactly clarity of purpose helps them navigate this otherwise cluttered environment. So let us dive in today with my guest today, Noha Berrada from Colfi. How are you today, Noha?
Thank you. Well, it's sunny today, so obviously I'm doing well.
I can see it on your face that it's very sunny today. Well, this is a show where we like to talk about purpose, but before we do that, could you tell us a little bit about what you do at Colfi? I don't think I'd be doing you enough justice if I were to introduce you myself.
Well, we started Colfi in November 2024, and what we're doing is an instant mobility of assets, so cash and securities. Basically, today, when two banks, for example, want to move the cash or a bond or an equity, it's going to take them more than 2 days to do so. And it's very costly. The process is very fragmented, and at the same time, it's very manual. So what we're doing today is that we want to make this asset movement instant, real time, especially that now it's getting regulated, so they cannot take more than a day to do so. That's what we're doing. We're focusing on a very specific type of assets, which are the collateral. This is why the name is Colfi, for Collateral FinTech. And the collateral is basically a deposit. So, for example, when you rent a car, the agency is going to take from your deposit, saying that today you're going to return the car in a good condition. And today, this same mechanism exists between financial institutions, and the volume of the collateral is more than 25 trillions in the market. This is why it's almost the US economy, which is 30 trillion today. So this is why we're doing the collateral in particular.
I understand. I was looking at your company before we hopped on this call, and I saw that you changed your name from Colfi to Colfi. Could you maybe delve a little bit as to why that happened?
So maybe I'll just start with a little bit of background. So I'm an engineer and also got my MBA from Cambridge. And I was working before in quantitative finance in investment bank in Paris. When I working there, started working at risk management, and this is how I got to the collateral, because basically this is what we were modeling. And when we're gonna talk, I think, a little bit of details during the purpose why I did this. But coming from this engineering background, I should say that I'm not a very marketing person. So when I was thinking of an idea of how is going to be the name, what is the name of my company, I was just thinking, okay, we're doing collateral. It's a fintech, and we're doing the collateral management. So I put the name Col for collateral, M for the management, and Fi for the fintech, Fi actually. And then I realized that it's a very long name actually to say. Call and Fi, especially when now in England it's basically Fi, and it sounded very weird when I was saying to people, and people just to remember the name. So we started by removing the M and just saying that today's collateral fintech, so it's Colfi. So that's for the story.
I understand. That's a nice story, actually. And I like that you dropped the letter because you've seen the response. So I like when people adapt and implement these agile methodologies in their day-to-day startups. But, like you said, we're going to be talking a lot about purpose today. And this is Intentionally FinTech. We're about the intention over here. So let me shift the spotlight onto you. And I can see you're already happy we're getting to that point. And let me ask you this. What made you want to build Colfi?
Well, that's basically the story of my life. When I was working before in investment bank, so I was happy, but when I was coming back home in the evening, I would just mentally tired a little bit, and I was just thinking that I needed some change every time. So I changed from the first investment bank, went to another one, and I was being a quantitative analyst. Basically, it's the same core, or it's the same job that you're doing on a daily basis. So after spending 7 years in investment bank, I did 3 investment banks in Paris. I was just thinking that I needed some time for me, for my career, for something to happen, because it was always the same single thing that I was doing on a daily basis, the same modeling, the same risk, the same, topic, especially that I was working more on the regulatory segment here. And one of the idea that I've got is that basically I needed to stop and do something different. And one of the things that I've been thinking of for years was doing an MBA. So I started looking at MBAs, and basically, all the people who did an MBA can understand the struggle of just applying to the MBA, go from the GMAT, all the, the essays and everything, talking to people, understanding which MBA is going to suit me the best. And one of them that I was not thinking of at all was the MBA of Cambridge University. So I applied to INSEAD, applied to all, the European one that we hear about. And very specific one about Cambridge is that it was more about entrepreneurship, doing something new. Basically, it was a small cohort. So I was just thinking that today I needed to meet new people from different nationalities, a different background, etc. So thanks God, I got into the MBA of Cambridge, started it in September 2023. And during this whole MBA, I still didn't have any idea about what I was going to do after the MBA, because basically I was just thinking, okay, that today I've got some idea saying that, well, I know what I didn't want to do. And it was basically coming back to this corporate, job, doing, most of it, the financial modeling, etc. But I really like the core of the job. I think it was more about, the environment of it. And I've got this idea because basically I was working in investment bank before, and I was doing collateral modeling, and I've seen all the inefficiencies of the market infrastructure, and I've seen, everything linked to it. And I was just thinking maybe I should start it. One of the challenges or the struggles that I had is that basically, okay, we hear about all these editors, we have IBM, Murex and everything. They're big. How can Colfi, as small as it is, be one of the biggest players basically into these words? And then I've met the Center of Alternative Finance in Cambridge, in the Judge Business School of Cambridge. And I was just thinking that maybe I should go and talk to them. And when talking to them, I've met some amazing professors. We talked about the technology, and we talked about everything that today can happen. And they made everything easy, and I made everything look easy for me to just start this company. So when I finished my MBA, and even in the middle of the MBA, I was sure that I was going to be an entrepreneur, start something new, because at the end of the day, what I really liked was solving problems and making hard things, look very easy. And I think that was what made me today just launch Colfi, because I know that there is a big struggle in the market and I have a solution for it. So it's bringing a nice solution to my clients and my prospects and the whole market. And I know that this is something basically that it's going to happen. So I want to be part of the story, and I want to have fun at the end of the day. I want to end my day thinking, today I did a very nice thing. I did something very different, because, well, as an entrepreneur, today you do regulation, tomorrow compliance, the day after this you're going to do products, talk to clients, etc. So at the end of the day, when I started Colfi, I had no idea how exciting this experience is going to be. And the whole trust the process, well, it sounds so cliche, but the whole trust the process, the mindset, the entrepreneur, etc. I'm just living in it now and being part of it. And this is what I like at the end of the day.
That is a very wonderful story. And I got a few things which will help us draft your why statement at the end of today's episode. But I want to ask you this, would you say this was more of a personal thing for you? Or would you say you have benefited from a gap in the market that you found? Which one would you say, for example, if we were to have an old-fashioned scale in front of us, like the Egyptians used to weigh, and we put on one side the personal motivation of overcoming challenges that you just told me about, and, trying to make stuff simple. And maybe a gap in the market? Because you told me there is a big problem. Which one would you think weighs harder on the scale?
Well, it's obviously a little bit of both, but I think what really matters to me, what was basically the fact that it's personal. I wanted to solve something. There are a lot of gaps in the market today, and basically being an entrepreneur is just you're obsessed with solving this problem for the people. You're listening to them. You're gonna change. The idea that I got for Colfi in the beginning, in the day one, is very, very different than what we have now, the product that we have now at the end. So it just this kind of being, I want to adapt everything so I can solve problems in the market. And this is it. I'm obsessed with the fact that I want to serve my clients, not necessarily with the fact that I have this product and I'm going to I'm going to make the market or I'm going to impose it to my client. I want to tailor this so I can solve it. So I think it's more personal that today I'm doing something that in 10 years, everybody is going to talk about and is going to use when you talk about investment firms and market infrastructure and banking infrastructure overall.
I understand. And would you say this is something that has changed over time? Or was this a constant in your life?
Well, obviously in the beginning it was, sometimes you don't know how resilient or how, you really want this thing until you're in the experience or until you're in the journey. And in the beginning, I was just thinking that I wanted to do a job because basically I've got this engineering diploma and I've got this MBA and etc. And I'm just going to find a job and it's going to be a good salary, obviously. And I'm going to have the life of my dream in London. But at the end, I was going more than this. And I was just thinking what would genuinely make me happy at the end of the day. And I think that, I'd say it's more, this didn't change at all from the beginning. And obviously the way you see your product, the way you see the market, the way you understand and you learn about the market, the regulation, etc., that would change. But this is something that was from the beginning. I was just saying, I'm happy if you can solve your problem as my client, basically.
Wonderful. Okay, you told about you living your life dream in London. Well, let us fast forward 10 years maybe and imagine that you know her with Colfi. You guys are, let's say, in 2035 right now, and people are talking about you in the industry. What do you hope they say?
Well, I think one of the first things that I would them to say is that we're a company tailored, or we're a company, we're talking innovation, first of all, because I'm talking about myself. I want to have fun. I want to discover something new every day, but I want also the people around me and the people that are going to be working in Colfi, I want them to have as fun as I'm having. I want them to be, the artists that they can be, basically. I want them to innovate every day, and I want them not to feel bored while doing this job. So I think that's one of the first things. The second thing, and it's more about my personality, I'm someone who's really straightforward, and I want it to be one of the values of my company. I'm saying this because basically, and I think many of the people who are working in big corporation, they would think the same, is that basically when you have something to change, it's going to go through different teams and it's going to go through the compliance, etc., for it to be changed. And it can be a small fix in the market today. I want this to be more straightforward. We have something to do. There is no way of us wasting that much time around governance, etc., to go straight to the point. I understand that this is something very important, but I want it more to be straightforward than what it is in other companies. So I think that's the two things I want them to remind when talking about Colfi, basically.
I understand. And this is actually very interesting because you touched about a corporate governance, and I would like to go to that in a second. But you told me about people having fun, and you told me about people not being bored and to some level feeling inspired. Do you know what Steve Jobs said his job was in Apple when he was in an interview?
What did he say?
You don't know the interview? Okay, so he was with Bill Gates live on TV, and he said this: "For me, Apple is like a ship with many holes in it, and my job is to steer it in the right direction."
Oh, I love that.
Did you know what? Do you understand? Because there's people who know how to fix the
Yeah,
holes. He is just giving the direction. Like you said, you want to be the artist that
exactly.
directs. And let me show you exactly how that could be done. Are you down for us to introduce a little small framework in our discussion today?
Yes, of course.
Well, this is, you told me you watched my episode, so you already know what
Yeah.
this is. But this is an episodic podcast. So to everyone who is at home and doesn't know what this is what we call the golden circle framework. And you can tell it's the golden circle because the golden circle inside. And you know, this is not a coincidence that I've chosen my accent color to be gold. And
Yeah.
I'll explain why in a second. What does this diagram mean, basically? In marketing, you said you're not a marketing person, but maybe after today, you will become a little bit more of a marketing person. We have two ways of which we can get a customer to buy. We have manipulation, which goes something along the lines of buy one, get one free. We've got 5 spots left. Purchase up until September and you get something bundled. This is manipulation. And by no means is this wrong or is this good. It's just a way of doing business. But the problem with this approach is that at best it gets you a repeat customer. What does that mean? The second there's a better deal, a better bundle, or a better price, that customer will leave you for that better deal, bundle, or price. But there is a second way you can achieve this. And this delves a little bit deeper into the psychology of inspiration. Because you see, we have 2 brains in our brain, the old brain and the new brain. That's how I introduced them on this podcast, but psychology, they're called the limbic brain and the neocortex. And we have the old brain, which is the one which evolved with the reptilians when they were crawling out of the water. And this is where instinct, emotion, and instinctual decisions are happening. Basically, those split-second fight or flight decisions. And we have the neocortex, which evolved with humans some 10,000 years ago, where we have the rational decisions, the explanation and rationalization of happenings in our day-to-day life. This is the neocortex. Manipulation tackles the new brain. It provides a rational reason why you should buy. But inspiration tackles the old. It will leave such an emotional imprint that the customer will start to see themselves in the product, the company they're buying. They will buy because they are on a shared basis of values. And how do you touch this old brain? Well, this is where this diagram comes into play. And there is no coincidence, like I said, Y is with gold here. So for the people listening at home, we have 3 concentric circles. We have in the center a golden one with Y. In the middle section, we have one with a caption of how. And finally, in the outer section, we have a caption of what. And the goal to inspire a customer to buy is to talk from the inside out. Start with the why. Why do you do what you do? Finally, how are you different? Or how do you do what you do? And finally, with the what is it that you do? And by tackling this method of addressing, you inspire because you talk to the old brain. The old brain understands the emotion, the why, and it no longer passes through the neocortex, which rationalizes a choice, but you directly talk to the emotional brain. And then that's when you have an engaged customer, a loyal customer that will stay with you for better or for worse. And a good example is what Apple does, because I'm an Apple fan. As you can probably see, the only thing which is not Apple is my microphone over here. And if you were to ask me 5 years ago, why did I buy? I'd answer you because I think the design is nice. I would rationalize my choice. But right now I understand that on some level, I like to think I think differently. And this is what Apple does. And this is what I buy. And I buy them, although the phone is not necessarily, technologically speaking, is not the best. But I would buy the iPhone 17, for an example. And you talked about corporate governance, straightforward corporate governance. Well, I lied to you, Noha. And you know that if you watch my podcast, you know that I like to my guests a lot on here. This is not a circle, but it's a cone seen from the top. And this is the cone exactly. And this is the straightforward governance you were talking about. We have the founder at the top with the why, the management board at the middle with a how, and the employees at the bottom with the what. And if you as a founder build this megaphone and you communicate your why clearly, then the management knows why they do what they do and why they come to work, and so the employees, because the management knows how to bring your vision to life, and the employees work on the what itself. And if you communicate your why clearly down this pyramid, down here we have the market. And if every single level of the corporate governance ladder understands why, then the market will too, and then they convert. So this is it, the short framework that our podcast is built upon. And, you know, it's about that time of the podcast where I introduce the why statement I've created for you, because You saw me, I was busy taking notes. So I've noticed a couple of patterns in your story. Challenges, simplification, you wanting to be different. Are you an Apple customer by any chance?
I
Yeah.
am.
You
My
notice?
is Apple. Yeah.
Yeah. You notice?
Yeah.
We do these subconsciously.
Yeah.
Something new, you wanted to break routine, and you wanted to change a bit the status quo. Do you know what the why of Apple is?
What it is?
To
The
change the
change.
status quo. To change the status quo. And yours is this one. To simplify obstacles such that together we can advance new challenges or overcome new challenges. Sorry, I have ugly handwriting.
No, but I really like it. And I think
Does it fit?
Yeah, 100%. You know, because sometimes you think of it, but it's hard to put it into words. And when you cannot make, words on it, it's hard to communicate it also to other people. And I feel, I did some exercise of looking at, and my fractional CMO helped me a lot with it, talking about what is your vision, purpose, mission, etc. What, like the value as well. What are my values? And I was just thinking, because I had, let's say, not a bad experience, but a challenging experience with my ex co-founder with I started this journey, and I think there was a misalignment in the beginning. It was around the value and also the mission, and I just thought that now thinking about it again, even our purpose were not the same, but I wanted to just simplify it and make it easier for them. I know that it's something that it's going to take time, and I'm working on it, and not having the same purpose is just going to make us having this misalignment between what we're doing. So I decided to continue this journey, because basically that's what I'm here for. But I was just thinking, this is what it clicked directly in my head, saying, okay, maybe we had this misalignment, but I need to review my whole way of doing things, of thinking about them, of having this whole journey. That today, what are the mistakes I've been doing since I started? And I know it's still a young and very recent company, but I learned a lot during this whole journey, and this is why I'm eager to do more. But it's basically thinking, what is the purpose? Okay, I want to simplify things for people because they found them very challenging, etc. And this is what my obsession. So I need people. I understand that we need to be different. Basically, I want the people working at Colfi to be different, but we need to have the same values. Purpose. We need to be driven by the same points altogether, being, the straightforward, being the transparency, being really obsessed with solving this problem. We can be, we're going to have the optimistic, the pessimistic, etc. This kind of, differences that we're gonna have. But yeah, I still want them to share the same purpose or the same values that today we have at Colfi, and I think it starts with the purpose first.
That is indeed, because you said let me address one point, the point you made in order. So you first said that it's very hard to put it in words, and that's perfectly right, because the why doesn't sit in the neocortex where language has evolved, right? The old brain doesn't know how to speak. So that's why the rationalization happens when we make a choice.
Yeah.
So that's why it's very hard for you to put it in words. But once someone says these words to you, you completely internalize them. That's the power of why. And now we talked about misalignments or dyads in business. Most of them most incompatibilities, most rejections when it comes to employees, when it comes to co-founders, come from one thing: the whys are not in tune. For an example, the first agency I've had a co-founder, and he asked me this: if there was $1 million project, but he mentioned one of my core values, but it would ask you to break this value, would you take it? And I said, of course not, because that $1 million was not mine to begin with. Exactly. But he would have taken it.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized our whys are not in tune. At first I said, well, there's not enough motivation, or we're small, he doesn't see it yet. But now, after I have had the experiences I've had, and I've followed through these frameworks, and I've read a little bit, it's just that we weren't compatible to begin with.
Yeah.
So that's where this comes from. Okay, let me ask you the following question. How does this why show up in your day-to-day operations right now that you have opened your eyes to it?
So maybe give a bunch of examples of daily examples of what I'm doing basically
Sure.
and how it can show. When I started in the beginning, I was just thinking that I wanted to do everything linked to the collateral in my company. I told you in the beginning that the idea and how, even the first mock-ups that I did for, even the MVP, the very first, MVP that I did for Colfi is very different than what we have today as a product. And this is because basically in the beginning, I wanted to do everything related to the collateral, going from the pre-trade to the post-trade, and going from, the simulation and introducing a bunch of things. And then going, from this to that, I was just thinking that it's getting complicated. We have a lot of features here. We cannot do a lot of things. What is the most important thing that would simplify a lot the whole framework of the collateral and that would make my prospects and my clients' life very easy to have, or would maximize their shareholders' value, and I would, all this stuff. So that's the most important thing for me. And I realized that the most important thing was the mobility, and we need to have it instant. And this is how we moved from we're doing everything around the collateral to we're doing instant mobility, and that's the most important thing. Because at the end, I had so many ideas going from, okay, I want to do this and that. And then after weeks, I just realized that I'm wasting time. I mean, not wasting time, but basically that I'm working on something that today is not very important. And I came back to my purpose, why I'm doing this. I want to simplify it. What is the most important thing that is going to simplify everything for my clients is the instant mobility. So I focused on the instant mobility, and this is what we're doing now. And obviously, I see myself and I see Colfi doing everything linked to the collateral, but not now, maybe in 10 years now. That's how it's driving everything around, the product. And then even with the people that I've been working with, I've had the chance to work with, different kind of people. It could be, consultant, could be part of the company, etc. And I was just thinking, or even employees, and every time that there is something that I feel they don't really get and understand, I'll be like, what do you really want to do? Are you simplifying the process by doing this, or are you making it more complicated? And when it's simplifying, then we agree on this. When it's not, that's not what we want to do. We don't want to do things complicated. We don't want to make them complicated. We're here to simplify for our clients. So we cannot simplify one thing and then make 10 things harder for them. That's the idea about it.
I love the way you see things, and I love Colfi, and I love everything that you guys do, and I can tell you're very purpose-driven. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I would like to ask you now, let's talk about stakeholders, right? Let's start with, we've talked about employees. How does your why show up in your day-to-day operations? They are the most important, because if the employees are happy and the customer is happy,
100%.
and then the shareholders are happy. So let's move to the next step of our satisfaction pyramid. That is customers, right? And I know it, everybody knows it, that in FinTech, it's very hard to earn customers' trust. Do you reckon that your purpose is helping lower that trust barrier?
Yes. And the thing about my purpose is that now it's, as you said, it's very hard to gain their, kind of trust, and very hard to be the one that they're going to choose anyway for their management, etc., trade management. And I think that today, the talking about we're here to help you, I'm here to simplify things for you. I'm here to, whatever you find complicated, I can do it because I did it before and because I'm obsessed with it. And I think this is building kind of a trust between us, saying, I'm that very nice friend, whatever you need, I can help you with. And this is how I'm going through, because I worked before in investment bank, and I've heard and I've seen how it's very hard to do the things that you're doing today. So I can help you with it. And I think this is what we're going now. And this is what we're building now at Colfi. This is why I'm telling everyone working with me today, we would want to simplify things. Well, now that I'm talking about it, and thank you so much, Michael, because I wouldn't think about it before. I was not really talking about, using the word simplifying and everything. I would, using other words, but maybe the word simplify would sound better for the people I'm working with.
Definitely. And I was going to ask you this question now. Have you noticed people buy into why you do stuff more than what you're doing?
Yes, I mean, people, they're gonna, at the end of the day, people, they buy emotions. They buy what you're not the what you're doing, why you're doing it. And this is why it's important to talk about them. So when I'm gonna go and, talk to a trader, portfolio manager, etc., I'll be kind of, okay, tell me about your story. What are you doing in your daily basis? When you arrive to work, what's the first thing you do? What would you want to have if you had the instant settlement or the instant mobility? Would that be easy for you? And then this is how we're, the MAM test, by the way, is very important to use on this one. But always talking about what the emotion you're going to have if you had this thing. And this is how it's 100% true. People, they're saying, okay, we're going to talk about the product and everything. It's very important because that's that's what we want. This is the finality at the end of the day. But the main important thing, why you're doing it. Why would you want me to help you solve this problem, basically?
I agree with you. Okay, let us touch the final tip of the pyramid when it comes to satisfaction, and that is investors. Do you reckon that investors can tell when a fintech actually stands for something? Or do you think they only look to see if you will provide ROI to them?
How can I answer that? Well, it depends. Investors, I would say, because some, they would say, I want to see, well, thinking about it again, very hard, and it depends, because some investors gonna be, it's a personality thing. They're gonna be, okay, we heard about this market, for example. Now they hear a lot about AI, for example. So they're gonna say, okay, are you fintech? Are you doing AI? If you're not doing it, we're not really interested. So they're gonna more about the what you're doing, basically. From the discussions that I had with some, investors, they're gonna more interested by the team. So the person and the founders. And when we talk about the founders, we're not only talking about their backgrounds, but why you're doing it. Meaning that today, if everything is going wrong, if, going very wrong for Colfi, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stop it here and say, okay, it's not, byproduct is not working because at the end of the day, it's a what. Or I'm going to think, okay, I'm driven by the why, and they understand my why and they share it at some point. So they're going to say, okay, we're just going to switch it a little bit and we're just going to tailor it a little bit to the market, and we're going to provide a nice feature for them. So that's kind of, this is why I was saying it depends, but I do feel that the right investors, they're going to go and see directly your why and see if it match with them, basically.
Yeah, I will risk getting cancelled if I tell you this, but this is a premiere, so I haven't said this in any episode. But, there's two types of people engaged in business. Yeah. And there's two schools of thought, if you want. Finite thinking and infinite thinking. Yeah. A finite thinking person thinks of business as a game which can be won. Thinks of it in incremental steps which can be achieved, and you can be the kingpin. While an infinite thinking person can see business as a game with no set of rules. You don't know all the players, and there is no clear objective to the end of the goal, right? They want to be in the game for playing for as long as possible. And these are people who actually happen to understand why. So it's important that when you pick an investor for your business, you pick one which has an infinite thinking capacity and is resonating with your why. Because when you have an investor which resonates with your why, they will be with you for the better or for worse, because you guys he's not funding you, he is funding a dream that he also has. He's funding a value he also believes in. So the what's not good is just the what. What I like to say on this podcast is the what is a witness to your why. If the what doesn't work, change the what. Yeah. You don't change the why.
Exactly.
And it just happens that the finite thinking individuals are the ones who want to see the what, want to see the checklists, and who in the end will damage your business.
100%.
And we have finite thinking people in CEO positions. Yeah. And we've seen that with Microsoft after Bill Gates has lost his tenure, after he resigned. We've seen what happened. And a very good example of a finite thinking and infinite thinking person is between actually Apple and Microsoft. Do you remember when the iPod was the biggest fashion?
Totally.
Okay. Yeah. Do you also remember that Microsoft Zune was the answer of Microsoft to the iPod?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, Simon Sinek. I'm sure you've heard of him. He's a wonderful optimist and a business strategist.
Mm.
He had the opportunity to speak with two product executives, both from Microsoft and from Apple, about their music products.
Mm.
And he talked about the Microsoft Zoom to the Microsoft executive. He said, well, we have the best colors, best features. We have so much storage. You can listen to music all day. It could even be better than the iPod. That's what Microsoft said.
Yeah.
Fast forward a couple of days later, Simon Sinek goes and talks with the product executive from Apple, and he says, well, the guys at Microsoft are priding themselves with their product being better than yours. Do you know what Apple responded?
What did they respond?
I certainly don't doubt that. That's the difference about infinite thinking and finite thinking.
Yeah.
It's just a what at the end of the day.
Exactly.
And if we look at it, which product actually lasted in the market before it moved
Apple.
totally to exactly.
I
So
think.
that's the thing. But all right, let me ask you one final question for today. If more fintechs were to act with purpose, not just ambition of revolutionizing the industry, because everybody is revolutionizing the industry on LinkedIn, could also get cancelled for that. What do you think would change?
They would revolutionize the word. We would have solution. I would be cancelled for this. No, but
This is going to be on YouTube Shorts. I hope you realize that.
I need to see it. I think that when you have a purpose, you as a person, I know that being an entrepreneur is very hard in a daily basis, and we say it, but it's even harder than we can think. And I just think that when you have this purpose, you tend to also trust the process. You say, okay, if that doesn't work, that's all right. It's a kind of mindset. I have my why. I know what I'm doing this. It's not about only this product or what I'm doing it. I'm going to tailor it a little bit. I'm going to do something different. And this is what is going to help today, all these companies to just go straight forward and saying, that's all right. If the market might change, the regulation and everything, but I'm going to deliver something that it's going to be good for the market because I have a purpose behind it. So for me, that's my vision overall to, the importance of having a purpose today, not only in fintechs, but also in other companies, in other, kind of startups. I know that fintechs is very hard because basically it tends to be less emotional, more about, the market, the financial world, etc. But you would want to make it still with a purpose and to serve these people.
I understand. A question just came to mind. Imagine this AirPods case, which I have up here. We talked about Apple. We praised them. So why would you use it as a prop? Was a magic wand, and whatever you would want to change at your business would change once I wave it like this. What would you change and why?
What would they change? Well, something very hard that I'm experiencing every day, and I think, we didn't talk about it in this podcast, but maybe it's the opportunity now is the regulation. So basically, as many of the amazing fintechs that now we have in the market, we need to be regulated in the market. Basically, the FCA regulated, and then maybe other regions regulated. And this is very hard today to crack in the market because basically you need a team, you need clients to follow with you, but at the same time, the client is gonna ask about the regulation. So this is something very, very important. I'm going through the FCA regulation authorization now. But I wish I had it from day one, basically, but this is very important today to think about it because, we talked about the why, but also something very important is that my client would want to feel safe and secure, and being regulated is the only one giving the security and the safety, saying that today we're doing something that is compliant with the market and with the Bank of England and with the FCA, etc. So I think that this is the thing that I would want to have immediately, and that would have helped me a lot for my future.
I understand. Well, I can try waving it like this, but I don't think
Yeah.
it's something is going to happen. But let me ask you this. Do you think regulation is limiting your abilities to fulfill your purpose to the fullest?
So I had a nice experience, to be honest, with the FCA since I started, because I reached out. It was the first thing that I did in the beginning, where I pitched my idea and they put me through the innovation pathway. So they helped me a lot from the beginning. Just go and see this whole, regulatory landscape. Overall, I think this is what people they think, because they want to regulate also the innovation, because they don't want to have fraud. They don't want to have, money laundering, etc., which I fully understand. In my own experience, the FCA helped me a lot, to be honest. Talked already to the authorization team before even applying to any authorization, basically, and they helped me go through my whole, basically the landscape, the regulatory and compliance landscape. So in my case, they helped me, but I do understand that in overall, if the regulation didn't exist, everyone would go wild with the innovation. But I understand that they need to do their job, because they don't want some bad events in the market today.
Well, they could either go crazy with innovation or really see some very rich people become even richer very quickly. So you can understand what you want from that. Okay, Noha. Well, I lie to my guests a lot, and I also lied to you today a couple of times. Allow me to lie once more. And those were not the final questions. What we do is we have a final curveball for our guests here on the show. Are you familiar with the celery test?
A little bit, yes.
Okay, well, I will reintroduce it because our podcast is episodic, so everybody is on the same page. It comes from this metaphor. If I were to be a health guru, one of those crazy Instagram gurus, and I was into getting people healthy, which one do you reckon I'd give them as their plate of food for today? A big fast food meal? Or would I offer them a salad made out of celery?
What is salad?
Yeah, 100%. That's where the names comes from. And what this test aims to look at is to see whether what businesses are doing is in tune with their purpose. Now that we have your why statement, would you be down for us to look at your website for 5 minutes and see if it's immediately apparent from the everything?
Let me do this.
I can already share it if you want.
Yeah.
I have it ready.
Yeah.
Okay. Noha, do you recognize this landing page?
I did it myself, so...
That's what I was about to say. It would be a little bit weird if you didn't. Okay, let us do this. Let us look at the couple elements you have here going on. Empowering financial institutions with real-time collateral solutions. Save millions annually with faster, smarter, and more secure collateral management designed for today's complex markets. Okay, so the first feedback, how would you want to do this? Shall I look at first and give you feedback last, or give you real-time feedback?
Just give me real-time feedback.
Perfect. Okay, so what I'd do here is mention, like you said, about your why, your purpose, just something connected with collateral solutions and the idea of simplification. So this is what I would do here, but I like that you have nice accent colors here. I like you're putting this here because this is something which prompts trust. Why choose us? This is actually what. You're talking about your what over here. So what I would do is have them in the order of our golden circle here. Start with why, how you're different, and finally what. So maybe have a section where you talk just briefly about your story. And have that's what I would like to see. Qualify. Okay. This is just some KPIs which you are promising them. By the way, be sure that these KPIs are actually something you fulfill.
Yeah.
Smart contracts. Okay, blockchain technology. This is your what? So okay, about us. You see, this is at the very bottom, and statistics say that you only get 3 seconds of attention on your website. So you want to inspire that customer from the very first second, otherwise you've lost him.
Yeah, totally.
Led by experts in cloud management, we bring to solve real world. You're talking about solving real world problems. There's half of your why here. Let's add something about simplification also. This is a landing page, right? So it's actually these are sections on the landing page. Okay, I understand. About us, news and updates. Okay, this is your blog, I believe. So this is just a normal blog. I like that you have your about us section on every page. So that's a good thing. About us, this is just normal contact form. And this is your LinkedIn and statistics and impact. I think that's what we've seen. Okay, perfect. I've seen enough. Are you ready for my full feedback, Noha?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, so what I've seen, I'll start with what you did good. So I like that you have your about section on every page. I like that you use your accent colors correctly, and that you attract attention, and that you have a directed flow on your website. So that's a good thing. What I would like to do, and this is some pointers which I would give you, is people buy from people. So I would like to see your face somewhere over there associated with your story, and make it more accessible for people to find it. And also, like we said, you have 3 seconds of attention on the website. Make sure you inspire them from the very first. Have that headline over there, something with your why, because that's how people actually qualify businesses subconsciously. I myself had agencies who were trying to contact me for different reasons, and I disqualified every single one of them, which had no connection with a purpose at all. So that's what I would give you. So if I were, normally I rate these on a scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah.
For me, a passing grade of 7, meaning you are already fully purpose, Apple, whatever, visionary, and more than that, you are even greater. I would give you a solid 5 for today. The reason being the why is not so obvious, but you have seeds which lead to it. But you have passed the celery test today. We have people who failed it, so congratulations.
That's a good news as well.
But that's what I had. That's it for today. Thank you, Noha, for joining me today. And thank you, guys, for tuning in this episode. Do you have any final lessons, final takeaways for the guests today?
Just trust your purpose and trust your why and go for it. And it's all about mindset, and everybody will make it if we just, listen to what we really think from the inside.
Wonderful. Thank you, Noha, for being my guest today. And thank you, guys, for tuning in this episode of Intentionally FinTech. I've been your host, Michael Phillips. Be sure to check out the other episodes for wonderful celery tests, wonderful purposes, and wonderful founders. And Noha can attest that I have wonderful founders on this show. Am I right, Noha?
Yes, of course you are.
Okay. Thank you, guys. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.